Hi, and welcome to my presentation on Chef Cloud. This is my final project for the computer science with a specialization in software development course. So this is my final presentation. My name is Kevin Shannon, student number x17160324. And what I wanted to do was, before I delve into the actual application itself, is to run through just the outline of what we're going to cover today. So I'm going to begin with my elevator pitch, which will be a brief summary of the project. The sort of thing that you would say to somebody in 30 seconds to 2 minutes and get them interested in what you're delivering. And it's quite key in whenever you're bringing projects to people that they mightn't always have the time to hear the full details. So it's good to be able to summarize quickly and get to the point. After that, I'll be covering the technologies that I've used, be it the built-in technologies, the sharing technologies, or even the versioning technologies. They're all covered in that section, and there's quite a lot of different parts that are implemented together, which really do give you great functionality. After that, I'll be touching on the design, which is obviously a very integral part of the application. So the design was the blueprint for which everything else followed through. And it would have been the frameworks that I'd be using there. After that, we're going to look at the implementation and the key challenges that we faced. So it was quite a taxing build, but with a lot of learnings from it, which was probably the best outcome from it. Just to definitely feel that I was pushing myself and developing my own abilities at the same time. After that, I'll cover quickly on the testing that was implemented, the different techniques that were used to make sure that the application was as described by the functional requirements. Then we'll go to a quick demo of the application, look at some of the key functionalities in action, and then after that, we'll summarize with the evaluation. Okay, so I hope you're as excited as I am. So the elevator pitch. I am passionate about food. Without a doubt, it's one of the most interesting things in my day. I live to eat rather than eat to live. Everything just has to be packed with flavor. And although I'm always very good at making the time for it, a lot of my friends, co-workers, even family, they don't have the time in their lives to find new recipes, to create these amazing dishes. So I'm creating a solution to this problem by creating an application that showcases great recipes based on the ingredients that you have available. So it's going to be a recipe app for the working professional, and the target audience is young professionals. So the this is based on the research that I did. So this here is actually from PwC. So this is the rise of the well care market, and here you can see that the well care market is 674 billion, with global nutrition market 47%. So that means that there's over 330 odd billion worth of dollars a year being spent in nutrition. So any application that can tap into that there market is obviously in line for great financial success. And one of the other things as well is if you can combine it with a strong social media presence, um, you can then take your application to the next level. So this here is the most watched Facebook videos as of March 2018 in billion views. And you can see here, fifth on the list is Tasty, which is a food blog, and they have 1.17 billion views of their videos. So again, you're seeing that there's a strong interest in the topic. People are very much visually orientated here. They want to see the food they're creating and just showcase what they're doing. So if I can target, that was the whole plan was to target this market and to target it in a way that would appeal to young millennials and to generations Z as well. They're getting up to the stage where they'll be getting their own houses and be moving out for college, and that's whenever then they'd start to have the time to start creating their own food. Like the amount of people I know who be big into food blogging. Um, and I think that it's really going to become a very prevalent market as we go on. So yeah, jumping back in then to the technology. So the technology that we are using here, sorry, before I finish. So the problem statement actually was how might I make anybody a culinary expert? And that'll be key the whole way through this, that I'm taking the average person here, not somebody who has a lot of experience in these foods or a lot of experience with ingredients. It's going to be how might I make anybody a culinary expert? So whatever decisions are being made, they're always being made with that in mind, just to keep everything as simple as possible, but just to really bring home the expertise. Okay, so then moving on to the next slide, which is the technology. So the main technology that we're using here is Ruby on Rails. So this is a server-side web application framework, which is fantastic for setting up web applications extremely quickly. And given the tight timelines that we have, where there was going to be measured deliverables throughout the course of the build, I thought Ruby on Rails was just the perfect fit to allow me to build quickly, to edit, to destroy where needed, and just to rerun the servers again. So it was just very quick and easy to do it. I used SQLite for the database, so it's quite an agile database that allowed a lot of interaction. It was quite easy to manipulate. And then the front end user interfaces were all done through HTML, CSS, and then they would have had embedded Ruby in them as well, which is something that I'll touch on in a wee bit later. And then these next two technologies, AWS, the Amazon Web Service, this and the GitHub, the Git, they are actually more sort of facilitating technologies. So the AWS was what I used to build. So it was the EC2 containers, which gives me that exposure to cloud technology. It lets me build in the cloud, to which would then mean that I can spin up servers as quickly as I need them, and that I can um, outsource a lot of the heavy framework to the cloud, which really just helps me. And then GitHub was my version control, so I would have a account on GitHub and I'd be pushing my code to GitHub, and then that way I was able to track what I was doing, and when needed, I was able to roll back to previous versions. So yeah, these are the key technologies, and they've all been very important and help facilitate this. Moving on to the design. So the great thing about Ruby on Rails is it embeds the MVC architecture. So this framework is model view controller, which means that there's a separation of concerns between the models, the views, and the controllers. So this means that each layer is responsible for the layers that are most important to it. So the key functionality for the model information will be stored in the models, for the views would be in the views, etc. So it really does give you that separation, and it just coincides then with some of the principles of Ruby on Rails, which is dry, don't repeat yourself, and configuration over convention. So again, this is just helping me to build, just to quickly prototype and get stuff out on paper to look at it and to see exactly what I'm doing. So the M stands for model, which is your data, and there's a one-to-one relationship between the models, the databases and the models. So for each model that I'm creating, there would be then its own table. The view is the graphical interface. So this is where the user can get input and output. As you can see here, their responses are coming in to the view, and that just allows the user to interact with the application. And then the controller is the business logic. So the controller would link the views with the model, and it would be in charge of sort of running the application, and your main methods would be saved there as well. So between the three of them, they're able to create these highly functioning applications. So yeah, moving on to the challenges. This was my second time working with Ruby on Rails, but this was my first time working with models, which led to a lot of self-teaching opportunities. This in itself was a great way for me to learn using online resources, but it did take its time. I had previously put in 12 days for build, um, thinking that I would be able to build as I went along. But to be honest, it went closer to about 20 days for build. just due to the time required to upskill